February 19th, 2020. A rented mansion in the Hollywood Hills. By morning, the rap world would never be the same. 8 months earlier, Bashar Jackson was anonymous. A teenager from Canarsie, Brooklyn, recording in makeshift studios, unknown beyond a few city blocks. Then came Welcome to the Party. The voice hit different, guttural, primal, a baritone that shook car windows and rattled speakers. Brooklyn drill had found its prophet, and he was 20 years old. The numbers moved faster than anyone predicted. 1 million streams became 10, 10 became 50. Labels circled. Victor Worldwide, Republic Records. The deals came quick. By summer, he was performing at Rolling Loud, sold out. Thousands screaming every word back at him. The kid who couldn't afford studio time 6 months prior now commanded festival stages. Dior dropped. The fashion world noticed. Luxury brands that never touched rap started paying attention. Pop Smoke wasn't just making music, he was shifting culture at light speed. Then came Meet the Woo 2, debuted at number 7 on Billboard, February 2020. He was scheduled to tour Europe, America, Australia. The trajectory pointed straight up. 15 days after the album dropped, everything stopped. A home invasion. 4 masked figures. 4:30 a.m. The Los Angeles Police Department received the call at dawn. Bashar Jackson, 20 years old, gone. What he built in 8 months would echo for years. A sound, an attitude. A blueprint that would reshape New York drill, influence UK grime, and prove that raw authenticity could break through the algorithm faster than anyone thought possible. This is the story of how Pop Smoke changed rap forever, and why his 8 months of stardom matter more than most artists' entire careers. 2019. The year everything changed. Bashar Jackson was no longer just a name whispered in Canarsie. He was Pop Smoke, and the world was starting to pay attention. Welcome to the Party dropped in April like a seismic event. That menacing 808 slide, those growling ad-libs, that unmistakable voice. It cut through everything on the radio and didn't just go viral, it became a movement. Within weeks, the views climbed into the millions. The streets were talking, the clubs were shaking. Brooklyn drill had found its ambassador. Then came the validation. Travis Scott heard it. Nicki Minaj heard it. 2 of the biggest names in hip-hop jumped on remixes, co-signing this 20-year-old from Canarsie who'd been rapping for less than a year. The industry was watching now. July brought Meet the Woo, his debut mixtape. Executive produced by 808 Mello, the project was relentless. Dark, aggressive, unapologetic. It wasn't trying to fit into American rap. It was creating its own lane, fusing UK drill production with New York grit. The numbers didn't lie. Streaming platforms couldn't keep up. Pop Smoke was everywhere. Then came Dior. Released in September, the track became more than a song. It became a cultural reset. That infectious hook, that sliding melody, the way he commanded every bar. Dior wasn't just an anthem, it was the anthem. TikTok exploded, Instagram exploded. The song soundtracked everything from fashion runways to basketball arenas. Rolling Loud became the coronation. When Pop Smoke hit that stage in New York, the energy was electric. Thousands of fans screaming every word back at him. He wasn't an opening act anymore, he was a headliner in the making. Republic Records came calling. The deal was signed. The machine was behind him now. At 20 years old, Bashar Jackson had become the face of Brooklyn drill. The boy from the pink houses had become the voice of a generation. But the higher you rise, the more dangerous the fall. February 19th, 2020, 4:30 in the morning. A rental home in the Hollywood Hills becomes the scene of an unthinkable loss. Pop Smoke, born Bashar Jackson, was just 20 years old. He'd flown to Los Angeles to work on his debut album, to shoot a music video, to keep building. The world was his. Everything was ahead of him. But social media had revealed too much. An Instagram story, a gift bag with an address visible on the tag, screenshots circulating. Location exposed. In the digital age, privacy had become a luxury he couldn't afford. Four masked figures forced their way into the home. Surveillance cameras captured shadows moving through the darkness. What started as a robbery escalated in seconds. Shots rang out through the Hollywood Hills. Pop Smoke was struck, rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, pronounced dead hours later. The suspects fled. The investigation moved fast. Within weeks, arrests were made. 5 individuals taken into custody. Some were teenagers, minors. The youngest was just 15 years old. They'd tracked him through social media. They'd come for jewelry, for cash, for material things. Instead, they'd stolen a life, a future, a voice that was just beginning to be heard. News broke across the world in waves of disbelief. Social media flooded with tributes. Artists stopped mid-tour to process the loss. 50 Cent, who'd signed Pop Smoke to his label, posted simply, "No, no, no." Nicki Minaj, who'd collaborated with him weeks earlier, was devastated. The Bible tells us that jealousy is as cruel as the grave. In Canarsie, the streets filled with mourning. Vigils lit up the Brooklyn night. Hundreds gathered outside his childhood home. Candles flickered. His music played from car speakers. Young men and women wept openly. He was one of them. He'd made it out. He was supposed to show them the way. The music industry stood still. Travis Scott, Quavo, Meek Mill, Drake, tributes poured in from every corner of hip-hop. This wasn't just another young talent gone too soon. This was a seismic shift, a reminder of how fragile success can be, how quickly it can all disappear. Pop Smoke had spent 2 years building his legacy. He'd created a new sound. He'd put Brooklyn back on the map. He'd shown the world that drill music could dominate the mainstream. And now, at the very moment his star was brightest, it was extinguished. The tragedy wasn't just his death, it was everything that would never be. The albums that would never drop, the stages he'd never perform on, the lives he'd never touch. The evolution of an artist frozen in time. But even in death, Pop Smoke's impact would only grow stronger. His music would become immortal. His legacy, eternal. The smoke would never clear. Pop Smoke didn't just adopt UK drill. He transformed it into something entirely new, something unmistakably American, unmistakably Brooklyn. The signature growl, that voice. It emerged from somewhere deep, primal, a guttural rasp that cut through beats like a serrated edge. Where Chicago drill gave you Chief Keef's menacing monotone, Pop Smoke delivered a baritone that shook subwoofers and rattled windows. This wasn't singing. This wasn't even traditional rapping. This was warfare translated into sound. The chemistry with 808 Mellow was instantaneous, almost supernatural. The UK producer understood the assignment before it was even given. Those sliding 808s, the backbone of UK drill, became Pop's signature canvas. Dark, minimalist beats with space to breathe. Space for that voice to dominate. Where Chicago drill layered aggression on aggression, Pop and Mellow stripped everything down to essentials. Bass, hi-hats, and that voice. The UK influence was undeniable, but Pop flipped the formula. British drill spoke in cold, calculated threats. Pop Smoke brought New York's swaggering confidence. The menace was still there, but underneath it lived celebration, triumph. The sound of someone who survived the trenches and now stood on top of them. Lyrically, Pop existed in 2 worlds simultaneously, survival and success. The streets and the penthouse. Dior wasn't about designer fashion, it was about transformation. From the projects to Paris runways, from anonymous to unavoidable. Every ad-lib, every grr, every bow was punctuation emphasizing that he made it out. His vocal delivery revolutionized drill, the staccato flow. The way he'd start a bar with restraint, then explode into that growl mid-sentence. How he'd ride the pocket of the beat, letting 808s breathe before coming back with devastating precision. Other rappers filled every second with words. Pop Smoke understood silence, understood weight, understood impact. Chicago drill was born from desperation and documentation, raw reportage from the front lines. Pop Smoke took that foundation and built mythology. His music didn't just describe the streets, it soundtracked victory over them. Chief Keef gave you the war, Pop Smoke gave you the aftermath, the spoils, the throne. The difference was philosophical. Chicago drill felt trapped in its environment. Pop Smoke's Brooklyn drill felt like it was conquering new territory with every track. Expanding, taking over. The UK gave him the template. Brooklyn gave him the attitude. His voice gave him immortality. 808 Mello would later say their process was telepathic. He'd send beats. Pop would transform them within hours. No overthinking, no second guessing, pure instinct. The producer laid the foundation. Pop Smoke built empires on top. Critics called it aggressive, fans called it anthemic, the industry called it undeniable. In less than 2 years, Pop Smoke had created an entirely new subgenre. Brooklyn drill wasn't just a regional sound, it was a global movement. And that voice, that impossible, unforgettable growl, was leading the charge. He proved you didn't need complex wordplay to be profound. You needed presence, conviction, a voice that made believers out of skeptics and soldiers out of listeners. Pop Smoke had all three in abundance. July 3rd, 2020. 4 months after his passing, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon debuts at #1 on the Billboard 200. 50 Cent's executive production. Stephen Victor's vision realized. The album becomes the longest-running #1 hip-hop album of 2020. Over 3 million copies sold, a triumph marred by tragedy. The voice that shook Brooklyn now echoes across the globe. For the Night with Lil Baby and DaBaby. What You Know About Love goes 5 times platinum. The melodic side of Pop Smoke the world almost never heard. These weren't just songs, they were blueprints for a generation. Brooklyn drill explodes into the mainstream consciousness. The sound that major labels once ignored now dominates radio waves, streaming platforms, commercial breaks. The 808s hit harder, the tempo races faster, the aggression becomes undeniable. Pop Smoke forced the industry to pay attention. Vivio Foreign signs with Columbia. Big Drip becomes an anthem. Chef G and Sleepy Hollow continue pushing the movement forward. 22 Gears holds down Flatbush. Coach the Ghost behind the boards, crafting the sonics. The drill renaissance Pop Smoke predicted is happening without him. The UK-New York connection solidifies into something permanent. 808 Mello becomes a household name in production circles. Axel Beats bridges continents with every beat. Young producers in South London and Canarsie share files, share sounds, share the legacy. A transatlantic movement born from mutual respect and raw creativity. Artists across every genre begin adopting the aesthetic. The deep voice becomes trendy, the ad-libs get mimicked, the aggressive delivery spreads to Atlanta, to LA, to Chicago, but nobody captures what Pop Smoke had. That natural ferocity, that undeniable presence, that Brooklyn grit that can't be taught or copied. Awards and accolades pour in posthumously. Billboard Music Awards, Bet Hip Hop Awards, MTV Video Music Awards. His mother, Audrey Jackson, accepts on his behalf, tears streaming, voice breaking. He just wanted to make it, she tells the cameras. He did more than make it. He changed everything. The second posthumous album, Faith, arrives in 2021. Debates rage about artistic intent, about what Pop Smoke would have wanted. But the streams don't lie. Billions across platforms. His voice still sells. His energy still captivates. Death couldn't silence the legend he was becoming. In Brooklyn, murals cover building walls. Canarsie remembers its son. The basketball courts where he once played now bear his name. Young kids wear the braids, practice the growl, study the catalog. Pop Smoke isn't just remembered, he's revered. The tragedy of Pop Smoke isn't just a life cut short at 20. It's the albums we'll never hear. The features that will never happen. The evolution we'll never witness. He was just beginning to scratch the surface of his potential. The world got a glimpse of greatness and had it ripped away. But legacy isn't measured in years lived, it's measured in impact made. Pop Smoke gave Brooklyn drill a face, a voice, a champion. He took a regional sound and made it global. He proved you could be unapologetically aggressive, and still go platinum. He showed a generation that authenticity sells. Bashar Jackson, born July 20th, 1999, gone February 19th, 2020. 20 years, 6 months, and 30 days on this earth. Less than 2 years of recording music, and somehow he became immortal. The voice of Brooklyn, the architect of modern drill, the star who shot too high, too fast. Woo back, baby, forever.